Traditionally, this channel has been about over-the-top, high-performance computer builds. However, today we're looking at the polar opposite. Today we're looking at the cheapest brand new computer money can buy. I have a very valid question. What if you don't need a gaming or editing rig? What if you need a simple, cheapest possible solution for someone to visit a website or type documents? What if you need to fill a room with cheap computers to give people access to a document? That's where Project CheaPi comes into play. Stick around until the end because I will also discuss some of the amazing and mind-blowing things you can do with the Raspberry Pi.
Welcome to the channel. This is TechnoScope.
Calling all sports fans. Catch the podcast of real fans by fans. Call in, chat live, and watch the sports game every Sunday morning at 9:30 Central only on #Champs.
This is amazing. Your setup is amazing. People understand this is official right
There
now.
we go.
Chicken nuggets, man.
Chicken.
Welcome back. My name is Minnow, and this might be your next computer purchase. To put it bluntly, the Raspberry Pi's primary function is to have a cheap, open source, general purpose solution where it would be nice to have a computer without spending the amount of money necessary for a Windows machine. The Raspberry Pi 3B Plus has a 1.4 GHz Broadcom quad-core CPU, 1 GB of RAM, USB 2.0 connected gigabit, Ethernet, 802.11 BGN and AC Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.2, a micro SD card slot, HDMI, a 3.5mm audio jack, and 4 USB 2.0 ports. For power, the Raspberry Pi requires a micro USB power supply capable of providing at least 700 mA. The typical charger for a tablet or high output battery bank will sufficiently run a Raspberry Pi, meaning you can indeed travel with it if you desire. The computer itself is a single board computer that is very well laid out and thoroughly tested. While the quality of the Raspberry Pi should be the same no matter where you buy it, the quality of the final build varies from the enclosure you choose and the person assembling it. Let's make it absolutely clear. Without a doubt, the Raspberry Pi is slow for a desktop PC. However, that isn't really the intended use. You should also be aware that most Windows peripherals won't function in the Linux Raspbian environment or may take an incredible amount of work to get them functioning. That's assuming the Raspberry Pi has enough processing power to run your device. It's not all bad though. I wouldn't recommend this as a super cheap solution if it was completely unusable. The upside include the fact that Raspberry Pi receives updates every so often. Currently, we're on the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, which was an update from the Raspberry Pi 3B. Raspberry Pis are so cheap and small, they're easily replaceable. If you decide to try something radical, you can rest easy knowing the extent of your adventurous side risk at most $40 US. If you mess up something on your SD card, it can be easily swapped out or receive a new Raspbian installation. And finally, if a new Raspberry Pi model is released, there's very little buyer's remorse with such a cheap price tag, and upgrading your unit means having a second Raspberry Pi for yet another project. So back to my initial question, what if you don't need a gaming or editing rig? Is the Raspberry Pi suitable for those needs? Depending on what you really need from it, the answer might be yes. The value for a Raspberry Pi is actually quite high considering the low price tag and flexibility of the computer. Again, the Raspberry Pi is not about to win any benchmark awards, but in situations where having any computer is the solution, this might work for you. Now, obviously, this isn't what most people use a Raspberry Pi for. Most people buy a Raspberry Pi when they need a low-powered computer to run some mundane task. It's great for automation, network components such as a DNS server, running your own private VPN, BitTorrents, low-powered Plex or media servers, or just having fun with something like RetroPie. The possibilities are quite endless, especially if you're willing to pick up a book and learn Python yourself. But if you don't have that kind of time, Raspberry Pi has one of the biggest online developer communities in the world. A lot of tools you may want already exist, and using them is as simple as downloading and implementing the ones you want to use. So in conclusion, if you're looking for a dirt cheap computer or do-it-yourself smart device, check out the Raspberry Pi. And the next time someone asks you, what is a Raspberry Pi? What do you use it for? You will know the answer. If you're curious or intrigued by any of the products seen in this video, we have links to purchase them below. If you made it this far in the video, you must have liked it, right? So go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like notifications for when our next video is available. My name is Elemento, and this is Technoscope.
Technoscope is a Twisted Curve production.